where you have two groups of people and you sort of watch, one of them is on CR, one of them isn't, and you wait 120 years. That study hasn't been done, and it probably never will be, because it would be hard to get funding for it. So we looked at some indirect epidemiological data. Most of you know all about this, the decision process of figuring out whether or not CR is worth it. And we thought a lot about evolution, and there's one serious problem when you think about the evolutionary pressure that would lead to the CR effect being ubiquitous. And Aubrey's going to discuss this and bring some important empirical evidence to bear on it that we never did. But the Earth goes around the sun. The mice and humans evolved on the same planet. And for mice, the orbital period is a large fraction of their life. For us, it's really tiny. So the likely length of famines is going to be a much smaller fraction of the human life than the mouse lifespan. So that the evolutionary pressure to be able to survive a famine in the same state, or nearly the same state that you were in when it started, is potentially much stronger for a shorter-lived species. So we thought about this and concluded, well, we don't really know if CR is going to work, but it's in the way that one would want it to, that it's going to give you 3 or 4 decades of extra life, but it's probably going to promote health, and it's probably going to slow the aging process a little bit. Our conclusion this was about 93 or 94, it probably makes sense to practice CR and, see a doctor first and don't be pregnant, et cetera. It makes sense to support research to find something more effective than CR. And then a lot of people added number 3, sign up for cryonics. And I think, I'm looking around the room, I don't know how many people, there might be a few people here who think this is utterly wacky and don't know anything about cryonics aside from the fact that it involves being turned into a corpuscle and hoping that in 200 years someone can revive you with some sort of magical new science. And I'm not signed up for cryonics. Just out of curiosity, how many people here are signed up for cryonics who are willing to admit it? Okay, and I've been told, Peter, would you say that on average about 30% of the people who are signed up for cryonics don't admit it publicly? Okay, so there may be 7 or 8 people here signed up for cryonics. I'm not signed up, and it's really for no good reason. I think it's sort of bizarre, but it makes perfect sense. And if someone just put the papers in front of me and told me it wasn't going to make me go broke, I probably would sign up, but I just haven't done it yet. No. So to put this more generally, use what means are available to try to live longer. Try to make something better available, and if all else fails. That was our initial conclusion, this community that was communicating via the internet. And this could be put even more generally, of course. I mean, the sort of living longer could be a question not just about, should be a question not just about individuals, but about lots of people, and we have to think about politics and the environment. Yeah.
What year was that?
This was, I started the group in 93, early 93, and sort of debates raged for about a year, and we sort of, the people that I was communicating with, there were lots of other people who were sending ads and so forth. It was an unmoderated group. So, but it was about a year later when we said, all right, well, let's try CR. Let's try to make something else available, and those who want to sign up for cryonics. It was a community of people, many of whom are no longer in the CR Society, actually. Most of whom are no longer in the CR Society. I'm not quite sure why. But yeah, that was 93 up until early 94. And again, there's a broader perspective to all of this. And, like Hegel says, to know anything, you have to know everything, or to do anything, you have to be able to do everything. But just for practical purposes, we have to sort of think about life extension as about the individual, mostly. But it shouldn't be entirely so. So then, a number of people started realizing, well, most of us were graduate students in the humanities, programmers, poets, and so forth. We weren't going to be able to start doing research ourselves. So we were going to hope that others would do that, and in the meantime, focus on number 1. And a number of people had the idea of starting a group that was focused on CR, but it was actually Stephen Mihalik, who doesn't often publicly get credit for this. But he's the one who finally said, listen, there's going to be this meeting in Las Vegas, an anti-aging medicine group meeting. Let's all meet there, and found a group that is going to be focused on CR. So that's what we did. Lisa was present, Roy Walton was present, I was there, and about 3 other people, including Stephen. And we set up an email list and started trying to figure out how to refine our CR practice. And it was actually a lot of fun. It was really exciting because there were a lot of questions that we now take for granted. But things like, you know, sort of how to combine CR with supplements, when to eat. I mean, a million questions that some of which we resolved, some of which are still very much open questions. And then we continued to revisit the question of whether or not CR really would work in the way that we all hoped. And again, we still don't really know. And now Meredith covered, this is again mostly prehistory. Meredith covered a lot of the history, so I'm just going to say lots of stuff. But I am going to point out one thing, that one critical step. I mean, as Meredith pointed out, we've had a lot of wonderful volunteers who have helped us tremendously. But Warren, where did Warren go? There he is. He put a huge amount of effort into actually starting the nonprofit. Originally, we weren't a nonprofit. We were just an email list and a sort of growing group of friends. Starting a nonprofit, just the paperwork is really, really hard. And Warren did it all pretty much, I think, entirely single-handedly. So thank you. So, the question is,